anywhere in the world, if there are three, let me see. Let me pull it up.
Oh.
Let me.
That's what I thought.
That requirement is one of the requirements suspended by AB 361.
Mm-hmm. All right, good. Either way, I'm still curious what country Director Morgan's in.
I'm currently in the Waldorf Hotel in London.
Oh, cool.
Oh,
Very cool.
that's real background then we see, right?
Yeah. I'm in a bar. I'm sure they might kick me out.
Give us a tour of the place, right?
I'm trying to keep a low key
Yeah.
so they don't. My cousin and Cecile are in the bar right now.
It looks like we have everything set and ready to go whenever you're ready, Madam Chair.
All right, if we are ready to go, welcome everybody to this regular board meeting, Mojave Air and Spaceport at Rattan Field on the 4th of October. And Director Valentine, would you be so kind as to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance today?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Follow me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Oh, now we see you.
Yep, we'll just make sure we've got enough electrons to support a good connection with video. Sometimes that crashes that I've found. Okay, so roll call. Director Morgan.
Here.
Director Coleman.
Here.
Director Ballantyne.
Here.
And Director Barney is here. Do we hear a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Director Morgan, roll call vote.
Aye.
Director Coleman.
Aye.
Director Ballantyne.
Yes.
And Director Barney is aye. Motion is approved. So for item 2, community announcements, public comment on items not on the agenda. So do we have any community announcements for members of the board first? Nope. Okay. How about community announcements for any members of the public?
No
Okay.
public comments.
Okay. Any public comment on items not on the agenda? Just making sure we're thorough.
None.
Excuse me.
All right.
Diane, you disabled my video.
I did no such thing.
Okay, the host did.
Did we do it on our end? Yeah,
We don't see him and he doesn't see us.
I can see and hear you.
We can hear you only.
yeah, we're controlling it here in the boardroom, Bob, and we're trying to figure it out.
That is a rush and a half.
Yeah, Bob, did you want us to get this sorted?
There it is.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead. Okay. Oh, there we go. We got you again. All right, so on to the consent agenda. So we have our usual minutes and a check register. Any members of the public have any comment? Okay. Any members of the board wish to discuss this? Okay. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve items A and B on the consent.
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote. Director Morgan?
Aye.
Director Coleman?
Aye.
Director Ballantyne?
Aye.
And Director Barney is aye. Items on the consent agenda are approved. On to the action items. Action item A. Lynn, are you going to be speaking to this one?
Yes.
All right, take it away.
Okay, thank you. Okay, hello everybody. Okay, currently Justin Steinmetz is the owner of Hangar 950. He is under a 20-year contract. He would like to sublet his hangar to Jacob Robidai, and Mr. Steinmetz is also subletting to Zach Reeder, so this will be his second sublet in the hangar. He is in a contract that will take him for a 20-year contract. So at this time, the staff recommends approval of the consent to sublet.
Okay, so was this a part of our insurance discussion that has made sublets an item that comes to the board? Or has this always been a thing and just nobody has sublet the last couple of years?
What brings the sublet to the board is the term of the lease. So the board approved the original lease. So all items affecting the lease have to be brought back to the board for approval.
So I didn't realize that somebody subletting to somebody else affects that individual's lease with the airport. I always thought that was a separate agreement that we don't really have anything to do with.
So
I think
let me explain. All of our leases since the late 80s, early 90s have required district consent to sublease. This is a standard term in a commercial lease agreement, and part of the reason is we want to make sure that people subleasing are complying with airport regulations, that they're in the aerospace industry, that we're meeting our FAA requirements. And so we require, with all of our modern leases, board consent. There were leases from the late 70s and early 80s that did not require that, but since at least the late 80s, early 90s, all leases have required that.
So that makes sense to have district approval, but I'm questioning, well, is there a reason this is coming to the board and isn't just Tim's purview? I know, Jim, you've been doing this for a while. Do you have any strong opinions on this?
So may I explain why that is? Yeah. So it's called the equal dignity rule. Mm-hmm. And so all agreements that are approved by the board, if those agreements are amended, that comes back to the board for the board's approval. If a lease is approved by the CEO, then the CEO can approve an amendment, consent, or assignment of that lease. So it depends upon who approved the original agreement.
Okay.
In this case, the board approved this original agreement because it was for more than 10 years, and that's why we're bringing this back to the board.
What did you call that?
It's called the equal dignity rule.
Okay.
So the manner in which something is approved is the same manner in which it can be changed. I can tell you that you can change that policy if you want.
Okay. It makes sense to, well, if it was approved at, one level prior, any changes get the same level of approval. That makes sense to me. I'm just terribly surprised that a sublet affects Steinmetz's lease with us at all. I think that's the only thing I'm surprised by.
So it doesn't affect the district's lease. The sublease is a separate contract between Steinmetz and the sublessee. Mm-hmm. The consent requires that the sublease, at a minimum, comply with all the terms of the master lease, which is the lease between the district and the district's tenant. So, but our lease is not changed. We do not approve that lease. We do not write that lease. We just merely consent to that arrangement between them.
Okay, so I'm trying to make sure I understand this very precisely. I apologize for the apparent tedium of it. But, okay, so the reason that this is coming to the board is that the Steinmetz lease came to the board.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay. But the sublet agreement doesn't affect Steinmetz's lease with us, so I don't see how equal dignity applies.
Well, because the lease with Steinmetz requires district approval for an assignment or a sublease. Because the board approved that contract with that requirement, then the board, under the equal dignity rule, would be the one who would consider that request to assign a lease or sublease the premises.
Okay. All right. Well, I've been doing all the talking here. Does anybody else have any strong opinions about whether or not the board should be involved in approving individual sublessees?
Yes, I think it's important. We have had circumstances in the back where somebody has leased a portion of their hangar. It didn't go through the district, and then that person had an issue with the district, certain circumstances, and there's no accountability back to the original lease.
Let me make sure that I understand your question.
Mhm.
Are you saying that you're questioning why the board would approve a consent to a sublease as opposed to the CEO? Or are you asking why the sublease would require consent at all by the district?
So the former is my concern, right? Because Tim approving that allows a level of privacy for we don't need to put out the name of the sublessee or whether or not the owner of the hangar is subletting at all. That maintains some level of privacy. Whereas if it comes to us, right now they lose a bit of privacy. There's a few more hoops to jump through because yes, absolutely, I agree that the district should exercise our ability to, hey, this is a known criminal. We shouldn't sublet to this person. I think that's a fine thing for us to maintain control over. It's just whether or not it has to be the board or if we trust Tim to do it.
Well, if the board is inclined, we can certainly amend the board policy to allow the CEO to approve sublease consents if you would like. We can't do that today, but we can bring that back at the next meeting.
Have a conversation with me, Diane.
Okay.
I'll fill you in some history.
And let me just say that the board has declined to approve subleases in the past.
Okay.
So.
Well, yeah, thank you for indulging the discussion. Bob, Chuck, any thoughts you want to throw in there?
I think we should leave it the way it is right now. I'm happy with that. What Mr. Valentine talked about also. It's a factor. So I think we should leave it current the way it is.
I make
Go for it.
to approve the lease, sublease as requested.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Director Morgan,
Aye.
Director Coleman,
Aye.
Director Ballantyne,
Aye.
and Director Barney is aye. Sublet is approved. Action item B. Is this one pretty similar?
Let me step in here at this point in time, if you don't mind, because there are some legal issues. Director Coleman has a conflict of interest on this lease. He is seeking to do a sublease with Voyager Aircraft LLC. We consulted with the Fair Political Practices Commission to see if this was legally possible, and they gave us an advisory opinion that under the public generally and rule of necessity exceptions, that the district could approve the lease. However, Director Coleman needs to leave the room, disqualify himself from participating in this item. And then I will note, are you going to disqualify yourself?
Yes. Disqualify myself.
Okay, so he's going to leave the room, and I'll just note for the record that we have a quorum of 3 directors who are still present, so we can still proceed with this action. And once he's out of the room, you guys are free to proceed.
You have to leave the door. No.
It's okay.
Oh.
All right.
Keep us at it. Thank you.
Okay. So who's taking the discussion on this one?
This is just a request to approve a sublease between Voyager Aircraft LLC, which is Dick Rutan, and Chuck Coleman. This is the same situation as item 4A, seeking the board's approval to allow those two to enter into a sublease agreement.
Motion to approve.
I'll second it. All right, roll call vote. Director Morgan. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, we need to see if there's public comment.
All right, any public comment? Nothing?
No public comment.
Shocking. Director Morgan, roll call vote.
Aye.
All right. Director Valentine?
Yes.
Okay, and Director Barney is aye. Approved.
Thank you.
All right, that does it for our action items. Let's get Chuck back in here.
It's all good, Jim.
Okay, I'm back.
Welcome back.
2 for 3. It's like one person will say nay and
I wouldn't do that to you.
Okay, so that's it for the action items. On to reports.
I believe this is Carrie. I'm zooming in today. These are the financial reports for August 31st, 2022. The bank balance did decrease $286,000 in August, and that was due to the CalPERS payment, the unfunded liability that the board approved in July. That payment had processed in August. Operating revenue, we're at 18%. Operating expenses are at 14%, so we are still overall on track. 2 months in, we should be at 16%. So revenue is above that, and then expenses are below that. So I feel like we're in a good place right now. Fuel sales for August were 84,000 gallons. The fitness center has 504 members, and they did have a decrease this month. They were running 2 accounting softwares, and they've merged onto one. So they did lose some members in that process. They are confident that they should be able to get some new members with their 5K coming up, and then also just recruiting those members that they had to delete off. The AR report over 90 days, the only person we have on there is Dean Sost. Still working with him. He has told Sonia in accounts receivable that he'll bring in a payment this afternoon. As of right before the meeting, we haven't seen that payment, but continuing to stay in contact with them. That's all I have. Any questions?
All right, no questions from anyone on the board, anyone on the public? Okay, thank you very much, Carrie. All right, Tim, your turn.
Madam President, members of the board, before I start on what's in the CEO report, I also wanted to let you know that we just recently received word from NASA that they like to move forward with working with the airport to establish a lunar test bed at the airport. We put down a test sampling out of one of our old test sites that we no longer can use because of the QDs or the protected area distances around those test sites preclude putting it in our test site. So they are working on a competition to award a contract for an entity that can take a picture of, or not take a picture, I should say, survey lunar landscape on the dark side of the moon, and the entity that does it best will be awarded that contract. So they are going to work with us to put in a 100 meter by 100 meter test bed that will work with, Mel did a great job at setting up a sample of what that'll look like, a sample lunar surface, and Todd Porter worked with putting down a type of spray-on concrete that resembles the moon. So it's a really cool project. I just wanted to give you guys a heads up about it, but we are working closely with NASA to get to work on moving forward with that. The great thing about it is that once they are finished with their competition, that landscape reverts back to the airport for our own use, and there are already entities that are interested in using it for testing, such as the U.S. Navy. So that was kind of a cool little topic that I thought I'd throw out there that we just learned about recently.
So this site will have texture and rocks and whatever they decide to need to survey.
And if the board members so please, I'll be glad to take you out to the site to show you the sample. And it's really cool. I think it's really awesome. It's in great support of our mission, especially since some of our partners are working with NASA on similar projects. So
I'd love to see it.
Oh yeah, come on out. We'll take a drive. You know,
is it similar to the place that Maston used? They had 2 concrete pads next to each other. Is that the area?
No, it's the old test site 4, which is just south of where Strato has their test site now.
Could you?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot there's a map here.
Sorry, it's right there. Okay.
So it is located approximately right here,
just inside the fence.
Okay.
which
Good.
works for them because I doubt that anybody would do this, but they want to prevent people from scoping it out ahead of
Yeah.
time and trying to cheat.
Click.
Yeah.
Pictures.
So,
Yeah.
but really cool project.
Right.
Mel and Todd did an excellent job at setting up a sample.
Mm-hmm.
Just a couple of updates really quick. We did meet with the FAA ADO office last week to discuss our upcoming ACIP list and projects that we have planned for the next 5 years. They did advise us, and this is going to tie into something that we moved forward with that worked out really well for us. They did advise us that because of the runway project, the runway rehabilitation project 1230, the monies that we're receiving this year, that we may not be eligible for discretionary funds for other projects within the next 2 to 3 years because of how much money that's available right now. And obviously priority is on runways, taxiways, and we compete against our airports for discretionary funds. The reason why I bring it up is we did all the planning assuming that we would have discretionary funds available to work on rehabilitation of the GA ramp, and then now that's not available. But what's great about it is that when we've been working with Todd Porter to cut and repave those cracks, this ongoing project we're working on, since we've started on it and we're continuing to work on it, it's going to turn out to work better for us because in the long run, we'll be able to maintain that pavement until such funds do shake loose. So, but I wanted to just give you guys that little heads up that the FAA kind of said, hey, you guys are getting a lot of money for this runway project. Anticipate not getting more for a couple of years. Okay, fair enough. Speaking on the runway 1230 project, as I think I briefed the board about this before, the discretionary funds that were granted to us by the FAA, once again, we're appreciative that they're allowing us to do this rehab of the runway. We'll only pay for 150 feet wide swath of the runway because that's the maximum design standard for all runways and airports in the United States. 1230 is 200 feet wide, so we have to find a way to preserve the remaining 25% of the pavement until we can find alternate means of funding to rehabilitate that extra 50 feet. I have been in conversations with Assemblyman Lackey's office and also Congressman McCarthy's office to see if we can get some funds that are available to shake loose. That probably won't happen at the time of our anticipated construction project, which will occur about 15 April of this year, next year. But that's fine. Included in the original scope of the project, we're going to put down a type of a seal that will preserve that remaining 25% of the runway and carry us through until we can get that funding shake loose. Disadvantage, we'll probably have to close the runway again at some point and to allow for the rehabilitation of that 25%. So it's important for us to obviously keep in contact with our tenants and advise them the reasons of why we're the rationale behind the closures and some of the challenges that we face. It's very unusual to have a 200-foot wide runway. I think that's very important to note. But there has been rationale in the past to maintaining it, primarily because we are considered to be an alternate landing facility for Edwards Air Force Base, and their B-52 aircraft need that type of width for the runway. So we're just going to continue to work on that project and make sure that we can get some extra funding to shake loose to fix it. Yes, sir.
One question. The transition from the taxiways that overlap and the taxiways, that's pretty straightforward because I see, a taxiway and it'd be a little step or something. Is that a nice gradual flow into the other runways and that? It's, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But
okay.
Because some of those, and this is my concern, that the 25% that we're talking about, the runway will be rehabilitated 150 feet wide with 25 feet on either side that aren't going to be rehabilitated in this project. Okay. So with the project, I looked at some of the scope of it. The grading will be corrected, but remember that the 25 feet in between where the construction project will occur to the taxiway, we can't touch until potentially next year or the following year. So that grading will get corrected, but it won't be most likely corrected completely during this construction project.
And more importantly, the runway, super smooth runway, or
It'll be like new in the middle, 150
Okay.
feet.
Is it going to have like a hump or anything in it? Because 30 is kind of a hump for runway 8 and 26 and that. And then I'm seeing if you repave it and leave 25 feet on each side, I see some clunking.
I will double check and confirm with our engineer.
That's just my.
No, this is helpful.
Right. I mean, the runways are important, and you got 22 and runway 26. Those are important. Taxiway is not as important, but those runways are paramount for being smooth transition.
I will definitely bring that to the attention of the engineers.
Right. And then if any additional money needs to make that smooth transition, that could be considered too, but not the whole thing.
Got it.
Whole width or length.
No problem. I'll get you an answer.
It's just, okay. You understand.
I believe before they resurface it, they grind it down.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're not gonna be raising it up higher than it is now.
Is that true?
So what they'll do is they'll mill or basically take about 4 inches off the top, and then put down a fresh layer, probably 2 lips, I imagine.
What about the 25 feet on each side, though?
That's what I need to get clarification on.
Because they're not going to mill into that, it sounds like.
Right.
Okay.
But I will bring this to the attention. I was unaware of that, so it's fine. I'll get with Mead and Hunt and say, hey, this is a concern of ours. Can you give me some information about it, or if there's anything that we can do in the project? Maybe it's something that could be part of a change order. But let me get that addressed.
And didn't you say last time that the interface with the taxiway, that's part of the repaving? But I would think a runway would be inherent to similar to a taxiway. So how far from the 200-foot wide runway, how far into the taxiway does it go? We're allowed to repave how far past the edge of the runway?
So from the edge of the runway, 25 feet to the new paved surface, that'll be 150 feet wide.
Okay. So don't you think that could be used, the transition to the taxiway then is 25 feet? So that sounds like the runways and the taxiway are taken care of with that 25-foot buffer. Is that, I'm interpreting that right? That the taxiways.
I think they would have to be, wouldn't it, Jeff?
Yeah, right. But if you got a 150-foot wide runway and a taxiway, so you get a bonus for 25 feet of the taxiway when you repave a runway. Is that what I understood? You get a bonus 25 feet.
I understand what he's saying. It's a little confusing. But
Yeah, it is.
where a taxiway crosses, let's say, 3012.
Yeah.
Correct me, check the box.
Yeah,
And taxiway, what is it, Charlie, that runs into it?
Yep.
Well, there's that extra 25 feet both sides.
yeah.
When you cross that taxiway Charlie with 3012, you're going to be able to transition into that taxiway Charlie from there, even though that's in a sense part of the 25 feet.
Right. And then the question is, okay, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 intersections there. I mean, what if you had 10 intersections? You're still going to repave that. So I don't know, some negotiating, say, hey, this isn't much addition to it, but we need a smooth transition to the taxiways. Let me count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6. There's 6 transitions, 2 on the runway and 4 on the taxiway. There's 6 total transitions.
Transitions.
Yeah. Right.
I understand where your concerns at. Let me talk to the engineer and say, hey, how is this going to get addressed? And then if it hasn't been addressed yet, to put the bug in their ear and then see if there's anything we can do to make sure, because they've already done the surveying of the runway.
Yeah.
So they might know the answer already.
Okay.
But if there's a grade difference that's I don't want to say significant, because obviously any grade difference can be of significance for aircraft. to see if there's something that can be done to fix it, and maybe include that in a change order. But at least let them know, hey, we're concerned about this. Okay.
Correct. 6 locations.
6 locations. No problem. Moving right along, just to advise you guys that I did give the notice to proceed for the GA hangar rate study. I am currently working with AMCG to provide them some information about the airport so they can get a good picture of the airport and our operations, and find absolute comparables for determining the rates that are appropriate for here in Mojave. So we're moving along on that. They do anticipate the stay will take at least 2 months. So by the time that they're complete, I'll have a final report and submit it to the board for your guys' edification. We also did kick off the hypersonic flight test corridor work, and that started last week, and we'll be meeting bi-weekly for updates on their progress. They are aware of the time constraints and the need that we have to make sure we get deliverables in a timely manner so we can keep chugging along here. Finally, just want to remind everybody, especially the public, that we do have our airport's 50th anniversary party, which will be held on Saturday, November 19th. Staff will be working on sending out invitations in the next couple of weeks to our stakeholders. And that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I hesitate to ask this just because it's not a fun topic, but I've received a couple of messages in the last week. So I remember our discussion on why we are requiring badges for the restroom in the general aviation hangar. Do you think we're coming up on being able to alleviate that? Do you think it would be wise to continue that for a little while? Have we continued to experience the problem that motivated the requirement for badges in the restroom area?
I highly encourage the board to continue having some sort of control mechanism to allow access into the restroom for several reasons. One of which would be not just accountability. I'm less concerned about accountability. I'm more concerned about we don't want to have instances where something happens in there that we aren't kept in the loop and we don't know what's going on. Having people trying to camp out. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but in all my years of experience at airports, nothing's impossible. People do strange things. Do I think you need to have a badge for it? Not necessarily. We have key fobs that we can issue to tenants that request it that can grant access to that door. I have real heartburn with just allowing anybody to access that facility without having some sort of control mechanism in place to prevent, God, this sounds so ridiculous for a bathroom, unauthorized access.
Yeah, it's just we went years and years with no problems, had an acute problem, and I would hope an acute solution. Because as far as I know, unauthorized access feels like, a grandiose way of putting it, but it's a fine enough phrase as any. It's behind a fence already. We're not going to end up with homeless people camping there. We already have a controlled access to that area at large. So does it make sense to really continue this?
I think it's a great idea to continue doing this. Now, I mean, I can leave it to the board to make a decision on that.
Let me throw up a scenario to you. Okay, we have friends over and we're in a hangar that's, 200 feet away, and someone wants to use the bathroom. Can I legally give that person my badge to get in the gate to go to the bathroom? I mean, you would think I would be out of, rules by letting someone borrow the badge to go to the bathroom.
Right.
So I think, like Diane was,
badge check because they're your guest.
Yeah, they're my guest, but can I give it to a person to go to the bathroom?
Generally, that's discouraged at most airports.
Okay.
What I would recommend is like I said, we have key fobs that we can issue to our users if they so request. And instead of having to make that trip, babysitting that person, they could give a key fob to them to
access. It'd be a bathroom-only key fob.
That sounds really, really excessive.
Yeah.
I am anti yet an additional mechanism to access areas in the airport like that, especially.
I agree.
agree, and it's going to encourage people using in between the hangars for going to the bathroom too.
Oh, people already do that. I just totally ignore whatever video footage we have.
Oh, I agree. The security at Mojave Airport is outstanding. To get in the gate, to get to a hangar, that's good security. We shouldn't need additional security for the bathroom. That's my.
With a push button combination, ground for.
No, I don't think we need any security on the bathroom.
Okay.
It's, we have cameras and we have security guards. Why do we need anything more than that?
And
We don't have that on the bathroom, the public use bathrooms inside the administration building.
You have multi-million-dollar jets that are in the hangars too that you don't need a badge to get into.
Well, if the board is inclined to direct me to have it removed,
Well, I think the one episode that somebody talked about where they did something to the floor, the walls, or whatever, that was one episode in the last 50 years that I'm aware of. And that one episode shouldn't prevent freedom to use the bathroom.
And
Exactly.
I do believe our acute I do believe Todd made the absolute right decision. We have an acute problem; it needs an acute solution. Let's have additional security on the bathroom for a little while, right? And so that I think that was the right answer, because it's not fair to ask the staff to clean up those kind of messes on any sort of regular basis. So, do we think we're going to have that problem right away if we or are we going to have that problem if we lift this policy at this time? Should we wait longer?
It's like having to take your shoes off at the TSA. It's a ridiculous requirement.
And longer than 4-inch screwdrivers.
Director Barney, would you like us to put this as an action item on the agenda for the next meeting?
Is this if this is required as an action item, then yes.
I don't think it is. I think we can ask Tim to do it and he can make the decision himself.
So what I just don't recall, if it's part of the security policy, then you are changing the district policy.
Well, so it was changed without our approval. So the board did not approve this. We found out about it after.
That's right.
Or was not needed.
Okay, so it wasn't in the policy that was just approved a couple of months ago?
Oh, was it? Good question.
I don't think it was a policy change. I think it was just and correct me if I'm wrong, because I wasn't here I don't think when you guys originally discussed the remodeling of the bathroom. I think it was just installed as a preventative measure. If it sounds like all the board members are in agreement that they think this is excessive, I can direct staff to go ahead and remove the access control and then send out an email to our tenants to advise them that they no longer require badge access for the bathroom.
That would be great.
I would appreciate that. And of course, if something happens, please respond to it appropriately. But, let's hope everybody can just be adults now and use these facilities appropriately.
The question, if something happens, the once in 50 years happens again, will we have camera access to that 24-hour period that shows everybody that went in the bathroom? Is there a good camera on the bathroom right now?
Let me find out.
Let's get a better camera in the bathroom that'll...
Yeah.
On them, not in them.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Good distinction.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I think we've set our part, but
okay.
Thank you. Stuff like that really does have a huge impact on how we're perceived by the community, not just our tenants, but it seems like a trivial thing, but it's a big deal and is to our image and what our posture is to our customers. So thank you for entertaining the discussion.
No, thank you for the input.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we don't have any standing board committees, so that does it for the report section, unless anybody thinks we should stand up a committee for some reason. I'll take a silence as not necessary. Let's keep moving. So item 6, director comments on items not on the agenda. Anybody have anything they wish to discuss?
Well, no, I just have a director comment.
Yeah, what you got?
We have a guest, Bruce Evans. I've known Bruce for many, many years. Bruce is a candidate. He's on the ballot this year for board of directors for Mojave Spaceport and I apologize for the disruption. He took the time to come here and attend.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was important if he had an agenda in front of him as part of the familiarization of what's going on in the board. So.
No apologies necessary. Thanks for pointing that out. Well, sorry, was somebody else trying to speak?
No, that was it. I just said, this is Bruce, everybody.
Well, pleasure to meet you, Bruce. Thank you for attending. Let's see. I think we're past the public comment section, but I don't think it's out of line to ask. Bruce, did you have anything you wanted to say since you had the trouble of being here?
Thank you for bringing up that.
What was her first year at the Mojave Airport then?
Voyagers, 1980.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you very much. Does that mean we are ready for closed session?
I do apologize for the interruption, everybody else.
Oh, there was a director comment on items not on the agenda. It was perfectly appropriate.
Well, I wanted to hand Bruce an agenda, and I asked Scott to, then I realized it had closed session.
Oh.
But I appreciate him taking the time to.
Yeah. I've come to appreciate anybody who's willing to take the time to actually contribute to these meetings who's a member of the public. So